Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments. This is the second part of the 2023 release video for Zhongshan Yatai, marketed to us modelers as Trumpeter, Hobbyboss and I Love Kit. In this video I'll be dealing with kits with new parts, as well as previously announced kits that are part of the 2023 announcements that we've not yet seen released. If you've not seen the first part of the series, which deals with new toolings, I'll link it above here. After the kits with new parts section, I'll take a few moments of your time to give some announcements and thank yous, but stick with me as it'll only be a couple of minutes before we get to the previously announced kits and the conclusions. So with that, let's get into it. Next up, we start with kits with new parts. And straight in at 1/16 scale, we have entries from all three brands, but we start with Hobbyboss and the Panzerkampfwagen 38T, the Alf E or F. Now this is actually a 2013 Panda hobby model. I'm not sure what they're adding to this to actually bring it into the Hobbyboss brand, but they are also releasing a Marder 3H, a Marder 3, the Russian one, and the SIG 33-1, which are likely based on that same kit. So 4 kits there, released from Hobbyboss, all based on that Panda hobby kit, we expect. Next from I Love Kit, we have a whole bunch of Shermans. So these are based on the 2022 tooling of the M4A3E8, the early version. So we get an M4A1, the 76mm wet ammo storage version, the M4A1 late, the M4A1E8, the M4A1E8 late, and the M4A1E8 Thunder 7. So a whole bunch of Shermans there. Obviously quite a few differences, hull differences in a couple of those, armament differences, a whole bunch of different things. So if you wanted a Sherman of one of those varieties, I Love Kit have you covered. Under the Trumpeter brand, we have the Sidgwitz 173, the Jagdpanther late version, based on the 2022 tooling. And the King Tiger, we have 2 versions, the Porsche early production and the Henschel 105mm armed version. So again, these are big kits, lots of parts, lots of interest. I am not a 16th scale model. I just think they're a bit too big for me. But that Henschel 105mm version of the King Tiger is a little tempting. Probably the price point might eke it out, but maybe I'll do it for the channel. Who knows? I can use that as an excuse. Next we go to the traditional AFV armour scale of 1/35th. And Hobbyboss start us off with a non-AFV non-catalogue release in the Fiesler FI 156C3 ski plane. This is actually based on the 2007 TriStar kit. It does not feature in the 2023-24 catalogue, but it is announced on the 2023 releases on the Hobbyboss website. So again, another example of the lack of clarity here. Following on from that, another announcement on the website that isn't in the catalogue is the Gaz AAA with the Quad Maxim anti-aircraft gun. The base kit there is a 2016 tooling. We also have the Bergpanzer BPZ2 ARV. That again is not in the catalogue. It is a 2019 base kit. Sticking with recovery vehicles, we have the Berg Panther, the Alf's G, the late version. The base tooling is from 2021, and this does appear in the catalogue, as does the M1070 dump truck, and that is also been announced on the website. So there are some things which correspond with the catalogue on the website, some things which just seem to be the website, some things which just seem to be the catalogue. What actually gets released, again, we'll have to see. So let's look again at the next non-catalogue release announced on the website, and that is the Sidgwitz 186 Jagdtiger, the Henschel production. And this is actually a kit I could be tempted with. The Jagdtiger is a big, chunky, the biggest AFV of World War II. Nothing could penetrate its frontal armour. It was absolutely insane. But obviously its manoeuvrability was heavily compromised by that. and most of them were flanked and either abandoned or destroyed, often through the wheel area. That's a 2022 tooling, so I imagine it may have been announced last year. I've done a huge amount of research looking at where these kits come from and stuff. I didn't get to look at the last catalogue because it was just too much. This was already getting too long. And finally, to close out the Hobbyboss releases, we have the IDF, the Namer 1 infantry fighting vehicle, probably based on the 2010 MacArthur kit. Moving to the I Love Kit brand, we have a bunch of Lee Grant M3 releases. So we have the M3 Lee, the M3 Grant, the M3A4 and the M3A5. These are all based on the M3A1 that was tooled in 2021. Then we have a group of M48s. We have the M48, the M48A2, the A3 and the A5, all based on last year's M48A1 tool. We then move a little bit more modern and have the M1278A1, the heavy gun carrier, and the M1279 utility vehicle, based on last year's M1278 tool. And then to close out the releases from I Love Kit, we have a couple of truck trailer combos, the M103 and the M104, both with trailers with different bits. These are both based on the 2022 M10001 with the M790. Moving to Trumpeter, and we go back to aircraft, and in this case helicopters. Of course, 35th scale helicopters are often in this because they kind of bridge that gap between aircraft and vehicles. Good for dioramas. They're often used by the army. So here we have the ACH-47A, the Armoured Chinook. That goes back to an original 2006 tooling. The next one I mentioned partially in the new toolings and said we'd come back to it. That is the E100 Flakpanzer with the Flakrakete Rheintocker 1. And that is the 2008 E100 kit, obviously with the new tooled rocket attached to it. Next up is the KZT, the heavy tractor version. This is a 2019 original tooling. And the L500A with 2cm Flak 38. The original base kit is from 2021. We have Object 490A. This is based on the 2022 490B. We then come to three versions of the T-72, the M, the M1 and the Soviet Tu-72 Ural that has Contact 1 armour, based on a 2013 T-72 tooling. Again, these are going to be quite topical with the Ukraine conflict if you want to do something from then, or you just become aware of these sort of vehicles through that. I mentioned the Iron Dome air defence system in new toolings. Here we have it on the M1120 HEMTT. The HEMTT is a 2015 tooling, obviously with that Iron Dome system added. And then we have one not mentioned in the catalogue. This is the M963 Tractor with the X-band radar, which is the new tooling piece. And this originally, the Tractor, is from 2021. Moving then on to 148 scale and back to Hobbyboss and back to aircraft, we have a couple of Messerschmitts, the 109E3 and the 109E4 Trop, probably based on the 2015 109F. Obviously they'll have different wings and different pieces. And then we have the FA-18C Hornet, probably based on the 2021 Super Hornet kits. Next up from Trumpeter, we have some Russian helicopters. We have the Mi-4A and the Mi-4AV Hound, both based on the 2022 base kit, and the Mil-17 Hip H, based on the 2022 tooling as well. Now getting into 172nd scale, not very many releases compared to the new toolings and the previously announced that we'll get into, but Hobbyboss starters off with the Russian BM-21 Grad, the late version of that. Originally, the base kit of that is 2019. And then a couple of railguns. We have the BR-86 with Karl Mortar and the Leopold Railway Gun, based on kits from last year. From Trumpeter, we have several different releases for the MAZ-537G, all based on last year's kit. We have the CH-MZUP 5247G semi-trailer, the 9990 semi-trailer, and the KZT-537L ballast tractor. Finishing off from Trumpeter, we have the M1135 Striker, the MBC version, reconnaissance vehicle, and the anti-tank guided missile versions, both of those based on the 2007 Striker kit. In 1/144 scale, we have just a single release from Trumpeter, the Zhongshan H6N. This comes from the 2021 H6K kit. Going to 1/200 scale, we have some releases from Trumpeter again. We have the German Tirpitz battleship, which must be enormous, which is basically an adaptation of the 2012 Bismarck kit. And then we have the Olympic and the Britannic, the sister ships to the Titanic, and that obviously comes from the 2019 Titanic mould. In 1/350th scale, from Hobbyboss, we have the USS Iowa. Obviously, this is an Iowa class battleship, but the most famous one of those is the USS Missouri. That was a mould that came out last year, so some adaptations obviously for that. And then Trumpeter gives us the last of the Congo class destroyers in the Chokai. This is a 2007 pit road based tooling, and the last of those. They've done the other 3 in the series. Finally, rounding out kits with new parts, we have more releases from Trumpeter. We have HMS Belfast in her 1959 configuration, obviously following on from last year's release of the 1942 version, and HMS York, also based on last year's HMS Exeter. So a few other notes that I've not managed to speak to, I've mentioned a couple of times in posts, but we've passed 8,000 subscribers on the channel. I think we're up to about 8,250 or something at the moment. So again, a massive thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel. Please do continue sharing my videos with others that you think might like the channel. Go ahead and subscribe. Most of you are not subscribed. It would be a fantastic thing if you could sub. That would be great. I really appreciate the support. Also have to thank my Patreons and channel members. We're just starting in that area. We have a winner of the first channel giveaway, the Mighty Sight glasses. I've had quite a lot on this past week, so those are winging their way to you, Pete. Apologies for the delay in getting those out, but they now are in the post. So if you want a chance of winning this month's giveaway, which is going to be a kit, I'll announce that very shortly, then please join the channel, join the Patreon. You can subscribe for as little as £2, £2.50 a month if you just want to show your appreciation. All channel members do get a chance of winning that raffle, if you want to call it that. I will be doing some live streams this month, so I'm going to be starting doing that. And looking forward to finally getting the Spitfire video out, probably next week. May try to get it out a little bit earlier, but it depends on what else comes up between then and now. Next we get into the more murky area of ZY's releases, and those are ones that have been previously announced but have never surfaced. So when these toolings were actually made, so whether they were announced when they were made or they thought they were going to make them but didn't release them, or who knows. But these are all kits which actually could be new toolings. They could be existing toolings that are bringing up, they could be other people's toolings. It's just unclear. So there's quite a lot in this section because of the lack of clarity. But again, we start off in 1/16 scale, and this time with Trumpeter, and we have 3 versions of the Stug 3, the G and the M. This was an unreleased 2020 tool, but it has been previously released by other manufacturers. So Hella, Monochrome, and Gallery have all done this kit. So really strange. I don't know why that happened. Big scale kits, Hella not particularly known for 1/16 scale armour, but that's the way that they've released it. So now it seems they are releasing those kits themselves. So whatever license deal or whatever it was that prevented those seems to have ended now. Next up we have a couple of Tigers, both the Alfs E, but these are the mid and late production versions. These were announced in 2020, but have never actually seen the light of day. We then step down a little bit to 1/24th scale, and a couple of kits which have been around in the ether for quite some time. Both again from Trumpeter. This is the North American P51B/C Mustang 3. Now, Trumpeter did release the D version of the Mustang in 2002, and this kit was announced way back in 2011/12. but it's never actually happened. So whether this is the year that actually it happens, we will see. And along with that is the Focke-Wulf 190 A6/8. Now this probably comes from 2004 Dora original tooling. Again, this was announced in 2011 and 12, but was cancelled as a release. So again, whether this year, what's actually happened for this to come out now, I'm not sure, but we'll look with bated breath. So 24th scale, a 24th scale Focke-Wulf 190 would be an interesting subject to go alongside the Spitfire Mark 9. So I'd be quite happy if that did come out. That might be a kit that I do actually pick up. Next, moving to 135th scale, and straight in with Hobbyboss and Armour, we start off with the Marder 3 Alfs H and the German Flak Panzer 1A with ammo trailer. These are both 2007 TriStar kits. These appear to be just reboxes, but who knows. We then have the Jagdpanzer 3/4, the Long E, and this is a 2011 TriStar kit, which was announced in 2020, but again, didn't come out. We then come to some more modern releases, and again, I apologise for any pronunciation here. The IDF Achsarit, the APC, the late version, 2014 tooling, the early version was released. And this one was announced in 2020, but again, we have not seen it. We then move into a whole bunch of US heavy tanks. We have the US T-29E3, the US T-30, and the US T-34. Now, the 2016, the E1 was released, and these were all announced at around the same time in 2017, but again, we've never seen them. We then have the Soviet T-54 medium tank. This seems to be a 2019 tooling. It was announced in 2020, still pending. And the PLA-59, which is exactly the same. From Trumpeter, then, we have the AN-TPY2 X-band radar, which appeared in the former section with kits with new parts, because they've announced that with a trailer, and they announced this originally in 2019. We now move on to the SLT-53 Elephant with semi-trailer. That was announced in 2020. And we have three versions of the 18-ton Sidkovets 9. We have the artillery version, the 9/1, that's the crane version, and the 8.8 centimetre flak. These were announced in 2021, and all good subjects for AFV modelers. It was a very highly used vehicle, artillery tractor, so we'll see actually if those hit the shelves this year. Now we move to 148 scale. Not too many releases here that have been announced before. They're all from Hobbyboss. They cover a wide range of subjects. So we have a whole bunch of Corsairs, the F4U2, the F4U5N, the AU1, and the Corsair Mark 1. Now the F4U1D was released in 2022. These were all announced, but we've not seen them yet. So we expect they're probably just lagging releases from 2022. We then have a couple of U2s, the U2R and the U2S Dragon Lady. These were announced in 2014. Those are going to be quite big kits because the wingspan of the U2 is pretty big. So it'd be interesting to see what those are like. And then we have the Russian Navy Su-33. This was announced in 2015. And you have the Chinese version, the Shenyang J-15 Flying Shark, which was announced around the same time, around 2017. Again, we've not seen those kits. Dropping now to 172nd scale, we've got a lot more in this section. And starting off, again, with Hobbyboss, we have the C-48C Skytrain. Seems to have been announced in 2017 from the new tooling of the C-47 at the time, but the C-48C didn't follow suit. And the F-8F2 Bearcat, which was announced last year from the 2019 tooling. We then have a whole bunch of transporters, the Kraz 260 cargo truck, the 260B with missiles, the Russian KZT 7428 transporter with semi-trailer, and the M911, all announced in 2020. We're still waiting for them now. And then to round off the Hobbyboss releases, we have a couple of rail-based subjects, the Panzerträgerwagen and the BP-42. Former was announced in 2019, and the latter last year. These were both 2017 original base kits, so we'll see if they're actually going to bring those out this year. From Trumpeter, we have a whole host of 72nd announcements that have been done previously. we have the PLA ZTZ-99 main battle tank, the 99A, the 9910. Only the 99A was released previously in 2021, but under a different kit product number. Quite how they're handling that, we don't know. Let's see if they actually materialise. We then have some more transport options, the Faun Franziska and the M983A2, announced in 2020 and 2021 respectively. Then going back to an announcement all the way back from 2011, we have the Panther Aus A and Aus D. We then have 4 kits announced last year, 3 of those on the same base, the 1240, Max Pro and Cougar, all based on the same chassis, and the American LaFrance Eagle Fire Pumper. In aircraft from Trumpeter, we have the A6A, the A6E, the A6E Tram, and the EA6. These were announced both in 2008 and 2017, as well as the MiG-19 PM Farmer E, which was announced also in 2008 and again in 2011, and again hasn't been seen since. In 1144 scale, we have 3 aircraft from Hobbyboss, the Antonov AN-12, the Chinese KJ500, and the Y9. These were all announced in 2020, all going from the base KJ200 kit. Closing out the announcements for 2023 from ZY, we have 5 kits from Trumpeter in 1350th scale. All of these were announced in 2017. To start us off, we have the USS Ranger, the USS Baltimore and Pittsburgh, which are both Baltimore-class cruisers, and HMS Nelson and Rodney. So what can we say about these announcements from ZY in 2023 to 2024? Well, if we take them at face value, together with the announcements from the website and kits I didn't mention here because they're already available, there are 248 new releases this year. Now, just let's put that in perspective a little bit. If I look at the 3 prior videos that I've done on 2023 announcements for releases over the coming year, for instance, Italieri have 24 announcements, 6 of which are new toolings, 3 kits with new parts. Airfix have 37 new announcements, 9 new toolings, 9 kits with new parts. Revell have 59 new announcements, 12 new toolings, 12 kits with new parts. If we take all of those manufacturers together, all of their announcements, including reissues, that's 120 model kits. ZY are planning on 248. 111 of those are new tools. So the new toolings from ZY are almost equal to everything being announced from those 3 kit manufacturers, Revell, Airfix and Italieri, 3 of the very commonly known brands in Western Europe. So it's an enormous output from ZY. Yes, it's under 3 brandings. That doesn't really mean much to me. They're putting out a huge amount. This is why they've managed to accumulate more than 3,000 releases over the short span of 20-odd years. So in terms of their reputation for announcing things and not releasing it, yeah, I get that, but this is not a promise. They're announcing things that they're doing, and the volume, even if they only release half of the kits they're talking about here, they're still equaling 3 major manufacturers in Western Europe, which is fantastic. We are living in a golden age of modelling, so I don't think we can really complain about ZY's quantity. Now, the quality that I've seen in the kits that I've done has been fantastic, so I know people have reported on some inaccuracies in some kits, particularly of traditional historical Western subjects. I've not encountered that myself, so I can't really comment on that. I can only go from my personal experience, which has been pretty excellent. I'm not really sure about how the prices are going to compare directly. That really looks at the releases. We'll be doing more of that in the future. But overall, you have to say there is a lot here. Now, notably, there aren't kind of sci-fi releases or, kind of bits that are out there a little bit, like getting some of these other manufacturers. But they've got a very broad range. I mean, they are investing a lot in every single area. They do tend to be quite armour heavy, but there are good subjects released in aircraft, and especially in ships, which a lot of companies don't look at that much. So really, you've got to say that they have a pretty balanced, output. And I'm really excited for particular things here. A lot of this stuff doesn't appeal to me because either it's too big scale, stuff that I'm not particularly interested in, like ship models. But I have to say, a lot of it is quite tempting, and the right place at the right time, I would pick up some of these kits, and some of them I'm actively looking forward to. Now, I get the disappointment if you're particularly focused on an individual subject that doesn't come out and is then postponed and doesn't happen for years, like the 1/24 scale kits we saw, the Focke-Wulf 190, for instance. That is a kit that I'd be interested in. I'm not going to hold my breath for it, but I'll take it as a bonus if it comes, and if it's a reasonable price, I'll pick it up. I think the Stukas that they do in 1/24 scale are about £120, so that is a much bigger kit, obviously, than something like the Airfix Spitfire, which was £95. So if they're coming in at around £100, that is pretty much comparable to current Western manufacturers. So we'll have to see what they actually produce, what price it comes out, and what it looks like inside when we get it. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid set of releases. I mean, you've got massive amounts of kits here. How do we not applaud a manufacturer for producing a lot of kits? There was a time when, we weren't getting that many and the quality wasn't great. Here we're seeing a lot of kits coming out, and the quality generally, I think, is pretty good. So I think that's all. This is a long video anyway. I apologise for that, but there was a lot to get to. That's all for this instalment of Man's Model Moments. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel for more like it, and share this video with others you think would also enjoy it. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and if you're feeling generous, then I also have a Patreon, which is absolutely the best way of helping me to grow the channel and produce more content like this. With that, I hope you have plenty of modelling moments of your own, and I look forward to welcoming you on the next video.